Help! Help! Help, please! Somebody help, please! Help!
What's up, movie maniacs? I'm Ricky Grimes, Horror Feed TV, Three Corners of Horror. This is going to be one of the best episodes yet. Why? Because we're discussing a film not many people know about. I'm Ricky Grimes. Like I said, we got Joe and JR. Guys, tell me, what's up? JR, start with you, brother. How you doing?
It's gonna be an interesting movie. A lot of good things for it. A couple things I have to nitpick on it, but let's see what's behind the door.
All right, Joe. What up, Joe? How
Well,
are you, my
see,
friend?
I'm good. I like this movie only because it kind of took us back to when we were kids.
That's right. When I was a kid, I was out on the streets trying to lift up manholes looking for the Ninja Turtles. So I don't know about these guys.
We
'cause I
weren't
was
doing that.
I was
No,
doing
we-
something
like,
a little different.
We were riding our bikes, going down trails. We used to go to the back parts of Beardsley Park.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, guys, this film is going to be a Shudder exclusive, and if you have Shudder, you can also view it via Amazon Prime because they have Shudder on the channels. This is The Boy Behind the Door, a film that I think a lot of people are I think a lot of people are really gonna like it, but there's gonna be film buffs. I know GR, you like you mentioned, you're pretty picky. So this film does got a lot of issues as well. So we're gonna deep dive into that. So Joe, why don't we start with you, sir? Why don't you throw us into this film real quick? Give us your thoughts on the opening moments of this film, and we're gonna dive into the two main characters as well.
All right. So one of the things that I did love from this movie from the get-go is it had a very Kubrick sense to it. The shots through the woods. I love the cinematography off the bat. Like the recent movies we've been discussing, cinematography has become a big focal point. This one was beautifully shot. So this one had the countryside going. When you're seeing them going through the woods, it did remind me of Jack's character going through the woods. I should remember that name from The Shining, but I can't remember it. But anyway,
Jack Torrance.
Jack Torrance. All right, so I did say Jack.
You got it. I know what you meant.
But no, I mean, it did. As I was watching it, I thought it was, for me, just the sense of it. And then because of the way they did it, it gave me that whole sense of dread already from the get-go. So, you have these two little boys that are walking through the woods. They're kidnapped. You see them later wake up inside a trunk. The trunk opens up. One of the boys is taken out. And I'll let Junior go into as far as these two boys who were kidnapped in the woods.
Well, the two main characters we have here is two 12-year-olds. One's called Bobby, played by Lonnie Travis, and Kevin, played by Ezra Dury. Now, basically, after the trunk scene, we see them running, like in a golden meadow. They have their basically looks like softball or baseball uniforms on, and they're talking about they can't wait till they get big. Usually things the kids talk about. I can't wait till I get bigger. I can't wait till we're out of here. So Bobby immediately says a line to Kevin. He goes, we're friends till the end, which is kind of a subtle foreshadowing for things to come. As they're playing catch, there's this one scene where Bobby throws the ball and Kevin is just like standing and looking back, and it's just this beautiful, like Joe said, beautiful cinematography. I mean, then you get the whole wind blowing, and it's a lot. This movie had a lot of foreshadowing in very subtle ways. So once it goes downhill, it's like Bobby's waiting for Kevin to come back up. And on a side note, Bobby actually had a chance to escape very early in the movie, but he kind of heard Kevin, crying inside. So that kind of once again, that whole theme of friends till the end, it comes up a lot during this movie.
This movie really thrusts you right into the action because when the first shot, if I'm not mistaken, or not the first shot, but the first opening sequences, it shows them in the trunk first, right? They open the trunk, they're in it. Then it flashes back to 6 hours before.
Yes.
And then that's when they're, it's a surreal moment. They're just lying, in the grass, just like best friends would do. You could relate to that because when you're young, everyone had that best friend. So when they're together talking about going to Los Angeles, which I found kind of weird, like this
Yeah.
what, they're like 10 years old. They're like, yeah, let's go to
12.
LA.
They wanted to be at the beach.
Oh,
Yeah, oh yeah. So I'm like,
They wanted to be at the beach.
hey,
Well, another thing, the Bobby, because nobody mentioned it, for some of the people who watch the show, because around this time, it's final season, is from This Is Us. He plays the younger version of Randall. And that was like his big role. So when I watched it, it was, I watched This Is Us. So it's kind of like been watching a little kid grow up, and now I'm watching this little kid in danger.
so
So
you had a stronger connection.
Yes, because I just watch because
Yeah.
I've seen him. He's played a little boy in the show that I watch, and now I'm watching this little boy's getting kidnapped. So yeah, it was a good little connection to have.
Pretty cool. So yeah, the guys, they're playing softball, they're throwing the ball around eventually. So yeah, they go, who was it? Kevin goes and grabs a ball. He disappears. Bobby goes
Yeah.
looking for him. Then poor Bobby gets smashed against the tree. But not to jump too far ahead, but this is going to bring us to our next talking point. When they get kidnapped, of course, you don't know who did it. You don't see faces. You're just seeing silhouettes, shadows. You see movements. You see sound. A lot of sound played a part in this film as well.
well, I'll leave the first character to Joe. I'm going to jump on the second character because the second character I thought was introduced in a very effective way. Because when we see the second character, we're led to believe it's a male because we saw a male figure earlier in the film. So we're led to believe it's a male the whole time. So, you get these little, first you see some boots and you see some of the jeans. All of a sudden you see them take a shower, come out, and they're basically just, all you see is the feet. And, I thought this was a very smart way of doing this because once we introduce to this character who the first time we see their face is after they basically break a hole right through with an axe through the bathroom door, and we see the face. It happens to be Kristen Bauer Van Straten. Now, if you are a fan of the HBO original series True Blood, you will know her as Pam, who was the right hand to Eric in the club. Also, if you're a fan of ABC's Once Upon a Time, she played Maleficent as well. So just to show the diversity, but her character is actually Mrs. Burton. And like I said, when we get introduced to Miss Burton, is she breaks the with the axe, she's trying to get Bobby out the bathroom. And then we get this whole scene where, earlier in the film, Bobby was able to get a phone and call the cops. But this is what this movie does with cinematography is we get this whole scene of her walking down the stairs. All you see is the shoulder shot with the axe. So the whole time, the focus of the whole walking is the axe.
By the way, the axe, I'm sorry to jump in. Again, like Chekhov's gun, I'm always bringing up Chekhov's gun. In the very beginning of this film, within the first 15, 20 minutes, they showed the axe clear as day in frame so we can see it. And I said it. I was watching this with my girlfriend when I saw it. I said, that axe will come into play later on. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
No, and then when we finally get to see her when she opens the door, she looks like this sweet, innocent woman, just lives by herself, has the TV on loud because she's lonely. She's
that was
alone.
smart. No.
Yes.
I like the fact that her raising the volume up caused her to go outside and close the door so the cop ain't going inside.
Yes. And from there, I'll leave the other character to Joe.
All right. So one of the things with them introducing Miss Burton is that.
But was her name really Miss Burton, or did she make that up?
She made it up.
She could have made it up. She could have made it up. But like looking, if I were to be profiling a missing child case, automatically I would profile a male.
Mm-hmm.
I would never think of a woman. The brilliance of this movie is that it was a woman that was the kidnapper. No one ever really thinks of a woman, unless it's maybe, a woman who lost a baby and then kidnaps a baby. Other than that, you don't think of a woman as far as someone who's going to kidnap a child. So the second character in this, they don't give him a name. Looked it up. He's referred to as the creep. So this is where this movie.
Really? He's right.
Yeah, it is. He's the creep.
Mika Hampton, yeah.
So this is where this movie actually goes kind of dark and deep because what this is about is that she's kidnapping young boys to basically sell them. This is like a sex trafficking
Yeah.
ring. So this is kind of, you know, if I guess if you knew that going ahead of it, you might not want to watch it, you know, but then when you watch it, you realize, God, this is kind of a little bit on the dark side. Like, it's not like somebody's kidnapping a child to make them their child because they lost a child. This is someone who is, you know, basically, so the creep is there because you see the exchange of money. And then he's given a clock that has a timer. So that's basically how long he has with Kevin, because Kevin is who he was there, who he basically purchased. So yeah, the other kind of thing that, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is that when Mrs. Burton refers to Bobby as the kind that my friends would not buy.
So Joe, what you're saying is that Miss Burton was the one that knocked the kids out and kidnapped them.
Yeah.
And the creep comes in. He's the one that came in the first time.
Yeah.
So he's on a timer.
He's a client. This is why this movie takes place in the 80s and 90s, because you see Polaroid pictures of naked boys. This is a kind of it's a bit of a disturbing movie, to be quite honest with you.
Polaroid pictures, though, to be fair, a lot of creeps have Polaroids because you don't have
They
to.
They do.
You don't have to
but
take them
when you
anywhere.
put in perspective the movie, the way that the kids were dressed, no mention of a cell phone once.
You're right. They had a rotary phone.
The rotary phone had to get plugged in.
But the rotary
because
phone
he told them there should be somewhere where you can plug it in.
So it's probably all right. You're right. Probably 90s. We're gonna peg it around 90s.
I'm actually going with the 80s. This was around when we were growing up. So these kids would have been our age. This movie, the reason why it's kind of it affected me in a way of the creepiness is because it took place when we were children, where we didn't have the cell phone and all these advantages to get out. That like I said, you never, not one at a time while they were in the trunk.
Brother. And that's why movies from the 80s, 70s are so much more scarier, because they didn't have access to the communications like we
get out. There's no way there was no anyway.
Yeah.
So that the creep was there. Basically, he gave money to Miss Burton for his 1 hour with Kevin.
I didn't know that. Good shit.
Yeah, no, this is
Joe. Dude, cheers, brother.
Dude, this is a dark movie.
Okay, so we see Bobby. He knows Kevin isn't. He found Kevin. He's downstairs. The room is locked. There's a lock on the actual door to get into where his friend is. They keep communicating through this. You're right about this. Now that you're talking about this, the grate that he's talking to. When I was a kid in the 80s, we had the heater where heat came out of that grate. So that's a good.
Man.
So they're communicating. You know, Bobby, I'm here. I'm not gonna leave you. I'm not gonna leave you. Kevin's like, no, Bobby, please, just help me. You know. So Bobby's going around scrambling, trying to get this guy out of here. Now let's go to the climax, because honestly, there's not really too much to discuss in between. This movie kind of ramps up. Now the climax gets there quickly, but the climax, in my opinion, lasts a long time. So Joe, tell us what happens to the creep, and then bring us towards when Ms. Burton comes into play.
All right, so at this point, Bobby was gonna run away. He ended up getting out of the trunk. He starts running away. He hears Kevin calling, goes back to the house. It's the whole little flight or flight moment, and where he had chosen flight, he chose fight, and then went back in there to help out his friend. Well, yeah, so Bobby ends up going back into the house, and when he goes back into the house, he actually ends up stopping the creep who just finished paying for his time with Kevin. This is going to come into play for a little discussion we're going to have later on. You have a fight in between Bobby and the creep. Bobby kills the creep. He then tries to hide the body, like literally cleans up the mess. So he's cleaning up the mess, but he did such a good job that where he ended up getting busted was he ended up getting his hand cut, and he left his handprint. And that's where Mrs. Burton realized that he was the house. And then you had this whole cat and mouse chase throughout the film. It was a wonderful done cat and mouse chase between, child and and again, you weren't dealing with a man, you were dealing with a woman as far as the villain. So the police show up. Bobby finds an old phone. This is why I'm saying this movie took place, because then he had to find somewhere he can plug it in. It wasn't a power, but it was actually a phone jack, so he can be able to call 911. Police show up. The guy looked familiar. I want to say I've seen him in some other movies. I didn't write it down to look him up, but anyway, shows up at the door. Mrs. Burton puts an axe into him, takes his gun, and I'm gonna let JR take it from here as far as where we go to the end of this.
Well, this is where the whole thing just goes like totally crazy. So Bobby and Miss Byrne end up basically playing, like Joe said, playing this whole cat and mouse game to the point where I believe they went down to it was almost like a basement, like tool shed type, where he's hiding there, and then he freaking hits her in the face with an object. She hits the floor, then he handcuffs her to a pipe. As he's running, she starts shooting, gets him in the leg. So eventually, he's trying to basically, run out again. So then he comes back in, tries to get to Kevin, finds Kevin. This is where, once again, cinematography, lighting, beautiful. I mean, the change from green, as you can tell behind me, from green to blue.
Mhm.
They have 4 major colors in this whole film: the green, the blue, the yellow, and then you had the one scene with the red. So eventually he finds Kevin. Kevin's upstairs in this room, basically chained to the floor. So now he has to go get the key for the lock, runs back downstairs, goes at Miss Byrne. Miss Byrne grabs him, clips him, and then this is a cool scene. She grabs his leg and she puts her thumb right inside the hole, holding it.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to mention that.
Holding it. So what he does, he grabs scissors and cuts it, leaving her fingers still inside. It's hysterical. Pulls it out. He goes back basically tries to rescue Kevin. Now, at this point, Kevin's actually got himself loose, I believe, because he's walking down the steps with the chain thing.
Yeah.
And he had this thing around his neck that after he passes a certain point, he gets shocked.
Well, Bobby went and got him. He had the key, remember?
Yeah, but they were both. He had that
He
walking
had
down.
the key for his chains, but then that's right. He had that
that lock
electroshock
thing.
mechanism, yeah.
So then they get into the cop car, and then this whole scene was crazy. They get into the cop car. Kevin's trying to call for help because Bobby's bleeding out in the back. And here's Miss Byrne with an axe, and all of a sudden she has the keys. She grabs the keys, basically hits Kevin, drags Bobby out. She's about to hit him with an axe. Kevin comes, tases her, and they run into the woods. Now, it's almost like they went back into the same woods that they were kind of in earlier in the movie in the beginning. It was almost the same, basically, cinematography environment. So they're basically trying to run away from her. She eventually catches up to them. And as she's gonna kill them both with the axe, they look at each other, reminiscent of the scene when they're laying down together.
Yeah.
And then cop shoots them from behind, and basically they get rescued.
What worked and what didn't work? That is the question, because this film, as we've been praising it pretty well, because this movie, it's not a bad film by any stretch of the imagination, but it did have a lot of stuff. Me personally, JR, how about you? Your favorite scene in the film, and what's your least favorite?
I'll be honest. So my favorite scene in the entire film was behind me, the lighting. I mean, the lighting was just beautifully done. It carried a lot of the film.
Beautifully shot film.
Yeah, beautifully shot film. The constant changes. This was the color that you all seen throughout most of the film. The one time you seen yellow is when he was peeking out the room and there's Miss Burton. And then the one time you see red, like I said, when he walks up the stairs and gets to Kevin. So for me, the lighting was beautiful. I thought the kids did a good job. If I was to give it a knock, I just felt like, because you wanted to hate these characters really bad, and I just feel like that it went so quick into the climax and just going full throttle that you didn't really have a time to really hate any of these characters. I mean, let's be honest, they're pedophiles. They're people who do sex trafficking, and you want to hate them.
And racist.
And the less aggressive one was the creep. You figure he
Yeah.
would be very aggressive.
All right. So my favorite scene actually for this movie, just because it was based on, for me, the era that it took place would be where we were all kids, was the fight between Bobby and the creep. Only because this is this is the second moment where you had the fight or flight, and Bobby ends up, even though it was accidentally killing the creep, therefore taking his innocence. So my least favorite part of the movie actually was this little underlying part on the racist thing. I think one of you guys mentioned about Miss Burton being racist because she thought that Bobby was just going to suffocate in the trunk and die because her friends wouldn't pay for someone like him. And I kind of just, the movie already had this whole creepiness effect to it. And then once I realized what the movie was about, I just kind of didn't feel that any little mention of race needed to go into it.
Now, your boy Ricky Grimes, my favorite scene is going to be pretty surprising to you guys, and it's a very mild and subtle scene, which I like. What I liked about this film, it didn't rely a lot on it did not rely a lot on jump scares because there's a scene where the kids are in the back of the cop car trying to, they're trying to hide from Miss Burton, the kidnapper. And all we see is Kevin's reaction. He looks over, he's like, oh, and then Bobby sees his reaction. He looks over, oh, and then you see the kidnapper coming towards the car now. They could have just had her just all of a sudden blah, appear in the car. Ah! They didn't do that. You saw from the characters' reactions. And to me, that was so realistic. I saw that, and that made me scared for the kids. Like, oh my God, like, because you're going from their reaction. You're not going from like just heard they boo. You know what I'm saying? I love that.
You kept saying the movie gave you their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what was great about it.
Yeah.
It didn't need the jump scare because in those situations, there's no jump scares.
No.
And it looked real.
Yeah, it did because
honestly,
you're in a car.
The kidnapping, like just everything, it just took me back to where we all, like, this could have been any of us.
Yeah. Now, my least favorite stuff, and this is the problem, it's not one particular scene. It's a lot of scenes. And what it is, the writers or director, I mean, I didn't catch the name. I apologize for that. But whoever came up with the script, it kept adding a lot of scenes where Bobby, I know he's a kid, but he did a lot of stupid stuff in order to progress the plot or to stall the plot long enough for something else to happen. Like for example, when he goes, he breaks the knife, right? The big knife when he's trying to get the lock. He breaks it. It breaks off in the lock. So I know he doesn't want to leave the knife behind to show that somebody's there. But the genius he tries to grab the knife with his bare hands to pull it out. He cuts himself and he smears blood everywhere. I'm like, okay, that's fucking dumb. He gets in the car. He don't know how to drive, obviously. He doesn't hit the brake at all. If I'm not mistaken, GR.
But they're kids, though.
But there's two pedals. There's brake and there's gas. He was not hitting the brake at all. He kept pumping that gas hard.
When you first drove, you actually had the coordination for it because I didn't.
Listen, brother. If it's life and death, I know there's a brake. I know there's a brake, and there's only two pedals. So if you're hitting one, it's not working. Oh my God, hit the other one. Don't keep smashing on the gas pedal. Again, they do that to put the character in a situation where he's a victim. Like he grabs the phone, for example, the rotary phone. He plugs it in. And he's so easily distracted from everything else. Bro, you got a dial tone. Use the fucking phone. Like, stop trying to do other things. They do a lot of things to stall for time. So to draw everything out. So the tension builds. But at the same time, it's doing it at the expense, at the intelligence of his characters. I know they're younger kids. Even the very beginning, when Bobby gets out, he sees Kevin's inside. Honestly, it's my best friend. I get it. But it's just me as a child. You don't know what's inside. What I'm going to do is I'm free. I'm going to run out and try and get help. GR is locked in a room and there's a kidnapper down there with your brother, right? Are you going to try and break the lock first? Or are you going to go, play Resident Evil and look for a key somewhere in this house were you? And by the
Well,
way,
truthfully,
for
truthfully,
somebody
if,
who doesn't know the house layout, he knew exactly where he was going every single time.
Yeah.
all
Like,
right.
yeah.
Yes, there
Not
was
only that,
that.
and he's making a bunch of noise. How you making all
Yes.
this noise?
Yes.
That
Yes.
killed me.
Yeah.
Because
yeah,
me,
yeah.
I'm in the house trying to rescue somebody. I ain't making no noise. I'm gonna be as
Yeah.
quiet as possible. He was making so much noise that
All right. But listen, knowing what I know now, I would be quiet. If Junior was in the situation when I needed to go in there, I would be quieter. Knowing what I would have known at that age without watching any kind of movies and knowing any kind of knowledge, I probably would have reacted the same way.
Yeah, it's just me. If one of you guys are one of you guys are locked in there,
I would be
I'm
quieter.
gonna try and break that lock first. Instead of
Actually, I would probably try to take out that person first, just so that way,
But
because
even
because
after
I
he
don't.
killed the guy,
I'm gonna be making noise trying to get him out of there. So instead of trying to make all these noise trying to get him out of there and be taken out, let me just go ahead and try to figure out how I could
yeah.
maybe not take him out, but incapacitate him to get Junior out. So me and Junior, they could take him out.
Yes.
we're overlooking one scene too, one major scene. I'm sorry if I'm rescuing somebody and there's a safe with money in there. I am making sure I'm taking some money with me.
I thought he was going to do that.
Putting back up.
Preach.
I'm like, why are you
Pockets. The pockets will be full.
We're gonna make sure
I
we
thought he was going to do that, but I saw him. I was like, oh, he's taking that. All right,
and not for nothing. He puts the money back and he takes out the yellow envelope. There's money in there. Take the money. Why are you gonna go grab a yellow envelope? I know they have to do it
we could go back though, JR. We could just.
I would have took some money at least. Put in my pocket just in case.
But we could go ahead and take them when we saw that money. We could just take them out and then go back for the money.
I'm sitting there like, why are you putting the money back?
All right, guys. Well, let's go rate this film right now because we could go on and on because I still got a lot of points to make, but it's gonna be just beating a dead horse at this point. But we're gonna jump on GR. Let's rate this film 1 through 5. What do you think of The Boy Behind the Door?
Well, I'm gonna be once again cinematography, lighting, tremendous. The kids did a good job acting. I felt the writers.
Kids are good.
I felt the writers held back too much on the villains. Maybe they were scared. I mean, who knows? I think if they would have pushed it further, I'm a horror guy. I love pushing the envelope. I would have given it a higher rating, but I'm gonna stick with a 3.5. I mean, I just think they held back too much.
Yeah. Joe?
All right, so I'm gonna give this one a 4. I'm giving it a 4 because watching it for the second time, realized it would be when we were kids. There was a little nostalgia in it. So for me, if I put myself in their shoes, some of the decisions I kind of would have done. Cinematography was great. Score was great. I did love the story. I didn't need the excess of the gore. At the max is that nail scene, and that nail scene was enough for me.
That's yeah. Good call.
But no, kudos.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 3.5. I agree with GR. It would have got a 4 again. And it's not that Bobby made dumb decisions, but it comes from a writing standpoint. They're making them do these things to kind of draw the plot out. And I think that's it's lazy. You don't have to do that. You could make them still be doing things like trying to break open the lock and still add drama somehow. You don't gotta add drama by him just saying, "Hold on, Kevin, I'll be right back." Like, no, try to break the damn lock. If it's the 80s, let's be real. Those locks are not hard. You could get any blunt object and try and
knock it. Yes.
And you can't say, "Oh, he don't want to make noise," because he's yelling for his fucking "Yo, Kevin!" You know what I'm saying? So I think everybody who's here watching this, go out of your way and watch it. Tell us what you think. Hit up the comments, and hey, we love discussing stuff, whether we agree with you or if you disagree with us.
Bring it.
Bring it. We're gonna sign off now. I am Ricky Grimes. We got JR, Joe, 3 Corners of Horror Feed TV. Come back next time. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you like, subscribe, share this video with all your family, your friends. You made these 2 guys ahead of me pretty happy, pretty proud. You make Ricky Grimes proud. So please, guys, thank you for supporting us. Come back every Tuesday, 8 o'clock, and we got some special stuff coming towards your way. movies you never heard of. Trust me, you're gonna want to come back. So, I am Ricky Grimes, J.R. Joe. Stay scared. Horror Fiend TV. Peace.
We're tracking your location. Can you tell me anything about where you are?
It's a house.
Okay, a house. Do you know where it is?
There's a lot of grass and trees and a big oil rig out front.